Hello and welcome. Welcome back. For many of you, I'm your host, Philip W. Dunn, Program Manager with U.S. Black Chambers, Inc. And on behalf of our president, Ron Busby, our board, and our staff, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to this special recording of our U.S. Black Chambers webinar with MassMutual, one of our very special and valued partners. And the topic today is going to be simple strategies for business planning. Again, we have our returning host, Mary Grate-Pyos, who is going to share with us some very valuable information that's going to help you and your business and as well as individuals. So you'll get a chance to learn a little bit more about what Mary does in a very short amount of time. Now, before we begin, I want to share some information with you about the U.S. Chamber. And I want to just kind of talk to you about some of the resources and some of the programs that we have that are going on at the Chamber. And for many of you, you are Black-owned businesses. You are Black business owners. And so we have a resource called Buy Black, which is a platform where you can go and register your business with the U.S. Black Chamber using our Buy Black platform. If your business is 51% owned by the Black community, we want to make sure that we have you registered on our platform. What this platform does is it acts as a central repository or central directory for Black-owned businesses to be found by consumers, as well as to be found by major corporations. The USBC has partnerships and works alongside our allies in corporate America to make sure that we create opportunities for Black-owned businesses just like yours. So I want to make sure that you visit buyblack.us, register your business, sign up your business at the Buy Black platform. We also have opportunities for you to certify your business at Buy Black. So this is an opportunity for you to demonstrate to corporate America and to others that you are an authentic Black-owned business. And this, of course, has its own opportunities that may arise throughout different business transactions that may occur throughout the year, and then also in the future. So I want to make sure that you go out and you register for buyblack.us on our platform. The next thing I want you all to pay attention to is we do have some remaining programming that's going to take place throughout 2021. As we're approaching the holiday season, we still want to make sure that we provide you all with quality programming. So I want you to go out and visit www.usblackchambers.org/webinars and sign up for the remaining programming that's taking place in November and in December. So I want to make sure that you all have the opportunity to go out and learn more to help your businesses thrive and succeed, not only in 2021, but to get ready for 2022 as well. Now, without further ado, I want to bring to you our very special guest, Mary Grate-Pyos, who is going to present on behalf of MassMutual this very important webinar on simple strategies for business planning. And she is here today. How are you today, Mary?
I am fantastic.
Good. So this is what I want to do. I want to turn it over to Mary. Mary has some very valuable information she's going to share. She's going to be sharing her screen with us. She's also going to share a little bit more about her background so that we can learn just a little bit more about Mary. Mary was with us last month. She provided us with a very valuable webinar that we'll play back for you in December, but you also can go and watch it on demand by visiting our website. So Mary, I'm going to turn it over to you. Take it away.
Thank you so much. I certainly appreciate the introduction. I'm trying to get my screen straight here. But welcome, everyone. I am Mary Grate-Pyos. I've been at MassMutual for the past 17 years. Consider myself a proud geek in pearls. I come to you with a bachelor's degree in mathematics with an MBA. Love what I do. Love working with business owners and families and helping them to get to the place of financial peace of mind and helping them to put strategies in place to make sure that they thrive. So I'm excited to share today about simple strategies for business owners. I think sometimes we make it a little bit too hard, and the big picture is knowing who you are as a business owner, making sure that you're always in the mode of making things happen in terms of implementing strategies. But the other part too is sometimes you know sometimes you don't know what you don't know that might be effective in building and growing your business. And so I just want to share with you some simple strategies that over the past 17 years or so that I've noticed that that business owners who would implement them would thrive and would grow and would get to the place of peace of mind about their business and knowing that they put particular strategies in place to assist them to grow. So I want to start with statistics, and I want to make a note that we are not statistics. Just so you know, we only use them as a guide to propel us and to move us forward. It's always nice to do an assessment of where you are, where you line up in the big picture of things, but it's always good to know what's listed out there and how do I kind of pivot and work against those odds. And this is a stat that came from CNBC. And it says there are 30.2 million small businesses in the US, but only a fraction of them survive. 20% of small businesses fail in the first year, 30% by the second year, 50% by the fifth year, and by the 10th year, 70% of the businesses have closed down their business. And this is from 2021. And these numbers are probably a little bit higher, probably for Black business owners, especially when it came down to how we manage and how we dealt with and how we're dealing with this whole shutdown in COVID. And so I want to share this with you. And this came from a website called Nationally Black-Owned Business Statistics and Trends for 2021. And it says that the majority of Black entrepreneurs, at 77%, started their own independent business as opposed to buying a franchise or an existing small business. And again, if you look at this, do you have the money for the franchise? Do you have the money to buy another business? But the other part, it says a lot about us as African-American business owners, is that whole hustle and grind, that whole grace over grind, the whole bit about I can do this. I'm not satisfied with this, so let me try my own hands at it. And so you want to create your own thing. And then it says that 36% of Black business owners decided to go into business for themselves for a couple of certain reasons, to become their own boss. And one of the things, for those of you on the call, you may recognize too, is that when you are in business, you really aren't your own boss, because you're taking all of the directions from shareholders and customers and clients and centers of influence and your suppliers and all of that. But all being said, yes, you're your own boss because you come and go when you want, but we're still taking direction from all of our stakeholders. And then it says 24% do so because they want to pursue their passion. 17% are inspired by a new business idea. And I promise you, there's a whole ton of that has happened in the last 20 months. And then it says 17% were not satisfied with corporate America. And despite all of these efforts, Black Americans have dealt with significant challenges in running our businesses, especially in the year 2020. So this is from they're looking back at the trend. The COVID-19 pandemic has affected us more than others, and we're concentrated in hard-hit service industries such as the health industry or food service, or those industries where we have to be in place and have to be in person. And so, and it's also accompanied by the struggle of money and the financial aid and relationship with banks. And so, again, I would reiterate, we are not the statistics. However, we use them to help us to grow and to help us to build and to know these are the things that we need to look for, so that in the event that we do need to pivot to make sure that we continue to succeed, we know what those risks are out there. And so let's get into this whole bit on how I look at COVID. And I decided early on, I was fabulously failing, if I can use that term, when COVID started, because I was thinking we're down for a little bit, not for a big deal. And I decided that, and I'm more of a mental kind of girl, I'll give you that. But I came up with this acronym for COVID, and COVID for me stood for, the C was clarity. Being clear about the values and what I bring to the table, what my giftings are, what my strengths are, what are my weaknesses, what is the thing that I do well, and what it is that I bring to the table. How is it that I help my clients? How do I help business owners? So I got clear about what I brought to the world. I got clear about my zone of genius. Like, what is the thing that makes me thrive? And what is that thing that I can partner with others to help them to get to their place of excellence? The O stood for opportunities. There were a whole bunch of businesses who were failing. People in my business, as a financial advisors, there were small business owners, there were corporations, they were failing. But in the midst of that, there are so many people who will see the opportunities, because even in the midst of what might look like failure, and I say failure is really that experience. It's really an experience. It's more of that. It's a learning opportunity. And so I looked at the opportunities that are presented before me. And as a financial advisor, I wanted to see, like, how, based on the information that I have, how can I help other people? And the same thing for you, what your giftings are. What is it that you have that you could create the opportunities and help people that might need that information that you have, that might need that product, that might need that widget, that information, that supplies that you have? The V was my value system. What are the boundaries that I had in my life? What are the things that made me thrive? What's the foundation that I stand on? What are those things that I won't do this, but I will definitely do this? And so you want to know what your value system, and what are the things that you stand for. So there's clarity, knowing who you are, what giftings you bring to the table. What are the opportunities that, even in the midst of what might look like failure? Remember, I said I was fabulously failing until I shifted that around and realized there's so many opportunities. And once I shifted that my amount of revenue that I brought in was equal to or higher than what was in 2019. And again, it all started with this whole bit of mindset and how I think about the world at large. So there's always the opportunity. Then it's the value systems, the things that I stand for, the boundaries that I put in place. What are that? And then is the I, was my inner game. Like my inner resolve to win. Am I building myself up to win? Am I putting my foot in the ground, standing my ground on that I'm gonna win? It's success or bust kind of thing. And so that whole inner game is really, really key. And again, I'm talking about simple strategies for business planning. And the way you think is huge when it comes down to business planning and your success. And the last, the D and COVID for me, was determination to win. I can't begin to tell you the number of podcasts that I listen to, and the number of faith-based songs. I'm a Christian, so I listen to a ton of faith-based songs that had words that resonated with me, and I look at all of the strengths and the things that I have in my life, and the things that I could be grateful for, and the gratitude and all of that. But again, I just want to give you a different way to look at the last 20 months, that you can get clarity on who you are. You can know that there are opportunities even in the midst of what looks like a challenge. Your value system will guide you. The inner game is going to be that thing that takes you over the edge. And the determination to win is going to be that thing that even when you feel like giving up, you're going to know that giving up is not an option, that you have to stay focused, that you have to be determined to win, because somebody needs what it is that you're bringing to the table. I mentioned earlier that I'm a proud geek in pearls. And if you understand this whole bit on how a pearl comes to being, a pearl is, it starts off as an irritant on the inside of an oyster. And this pearly substance gathers around this irritant, and reminds me so much of entrepreneurs, that it's that thing that irritates you, that you have the answer to, and that you could put in place, and it can have such value that you bring to the world. And I know, just even based on just reflection, that the thing that I have, that gifting that I have of helping individuals with their finances, the gifting that you have of helping people get to whatever, to solve that problem that you have, that you too have that whole, what I call that pearl power, that you have that irritant, that's this pearly substance formed around, and then it becomes a priceless value to the people that you serve. And again, making sure that you have the right mindset, that you know that you're focused on winning. The one thing I would say too in this, and especially for us as African Americans, is this one statement keeps resonating with me, Phil. And that statement is that I am the seed of the slave that would not die. That resonates with me, that I stand on shoulders that are brave, that are strong, that I'm living out their dreams, I'm living out their goals, that I'm living out, and going places that my ancestors had no idea that they could go to. And that resonates with me so much, of knowing that when it comes down to starting this business, it's just not about starting it, but you've got to plan for success. You have to plan to win. You've got to plan for what might look like failure, but even in the midst of that, there's always success. So I just want to give this to you as, like I call my gifting, in terms of looking at the last 20 months as a little bit different. So let's talk about the business of you. And all of these are just little strategies that I want to share with you. And this big one is the business of you. Like, what's your intention? What was the whole point of you starting your business? What was the goal? What did you intend to do? Because sometimes we get distracted. Something might look a little bit better. And especially during COVID, some people pivot and then now they may not know how to come back to what their real goal was, because you end up probably, like, maybe the money came a little bit faster in this thing that you pivot to, but your heart and your passion is that thing that you had to shift from. So what is that intention? Like, every day I get up and I sit in my quiet time and I'm like, what's my intention for the day? By the time I get to the end of the day, what is it that I want to accomplish in my business? And I challenge you, what is your intention? What is your intention between now and the end of the year? And write that vision down, make it plain, so that when you look at it, you say, you know what, I've got to make sure I take care of this. I've got to do this. But your intention will lead you to figure out what's your financial truth. And again, when it comes down to business, again, simple strategies. What is your financial truth? Am I starting the business? Is it a money thing? And there's nothing wrong with money. Don't be afraid of that. A lot of times, and especially when it comes down to women, we don't want to say, well, I want to make money. Well, guess what? It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It really is a good thing, because it provides so many different opportunities, not only for you, but for your community and for your family. And then when you talk about your financial truth, do a self-assessment as a business owner, because you want to hire against the things that, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what your weaknesses are, but you want to hire. A simple strategy for business planning is hire against your weaknesses. Like, if you know that you're not good at following through in your business, then you hire somebody within your business that you would get a great executive assistant that say, these are the things that we've got to do. What are the action steps? What are the tactical steps that we need to put in place? So do assessment of who you are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and hire the things that derail you. Hire against the things that derail you. If you know that you're not good at following up, hire for that. If you know that you are spending a bit too much, if you know that you're always late filing the taxes, what's your financial truth? You're going to make sure that you put ticklers in your calendar to help you. You're going to hire people. Hire against your weakness. I mean, you know what your strengths are. And then some of the things that you're doing, you may not need to do, but you want to hire against the weakness. But most of all, do a self-assessment of who you are, what you bring to the table, because that same inner game that you have individually, you can't always bring that to the business. You may not always win because you're hiring, you're trying to be nice to everybody. You can't hire all your family members. You can't always give away all of your money to make sure you're taking care of family. We talked, I think the last session, we talked about this whole bit on the black tax, this psychological guilt that you have because you are the one in the family that made it, and you want to make sure that all of the members in your family are taken care of, or you want to hire them. But again, do the self-assessment. Do the self-assessment and figure out what's your financial truth. Where am I trying to get to in this business? What's my end goal? And we'll talk a little bit more about that. The business of you, again, it's how you think. How do you think about being a business owner? Is it fun? Are you the rainmaker only, and you don't know how to implement the strategies or the tactical action step? There's a saying that I've heard before is big hat, no cattle. So you talk a big game, but are you implementing? Are you making the money in the business that you need to get to? You're getting to the revenue that you get to. Grant Cardone talks about in his book, the 10X rule, is that, let's just say if your revenue goal is 200,000, well, 10 times that and go for it. And even if you don't make it, you become a totally different person in the process, just because you have to think differently versus, the way that you think to get to 200,000. It's totally different if you're trying to get to 2 million or 20 million or 200 million. There's a totally different process. And then it's this whole bit on growth mindset and how you think. Is it a fixed mindset or growth mindset? The growth mindset, it embraces failure. It embraces the challenges. It embraces I don't know how that's going to turn out. It embraces all of that, of knowing that you're going to give it your best effort and try to win in spite of. And again, when it comes down to business planning, that's key. How you think is key. You are the vision. You are the rainmaker for the company. You are the one that holds all of the thoughts and processes inside of your head. But if you are not thinking at a way that it takes you to the next level, then you've got to keep that self-assessment, the financial self-assessment in check. The other thing you want to look at too is when you do get a large sum of money, how do you handle it? If you're short, how do you handle it? Are you prone to depression? And again, this whole business of you, and I spent a lot of time on this because, I think it was John Maxwell that says, everything rises and falls on leadership. On you leading the company, everything rises and falls on that. So how you think really matters. How you get to the next level and how do you process that whole thing matters. Then it's the personal and the business support. Sometimes you start a business and nobody believes in you but you. Nobody believes in, it might be your spouse. They may doubt you till the very end until, oh, yes, now we enjoying the benefits of it. Everybody can jump on board when the money comes in. But can you trust the process? Can you trust me? Can you trust the personality and all that I am and who I am at the beginning when it's just a seed, when it's just an idea? So you've got to make sure you've got the right personal support in. And if you don't have the right, you've got to ignore, you've got to not pay attention sometimes to the things and not add into, just don't let negativity feed into your system. Do you have the right people around you? Do you have the right people to stretch you? Have you hired the right people to put in place to make sure that they support you? If you're the rainmaker, do you have, the best, business development person? And then the shoulders we stand on. And I said before, we stand on broad shoulders, that we are the vision of those who that never, that could never be at the place that we are because of the background, because of systemic racism, because of slavery, because of all of the things. Again, and I still reiterate this, we are the seed of the slave that wouldn't die. So what is it that you're supposed to do? And you can stand strong and do that and make it happen. And again, this whole bit on the business of you has everything to do with business planning, because your success or failure of your business is going to be predicated on you. Then we have to have this audacious vision, this big, bold, audacious vision. What drives you as a successful business owner? What is it that you want to do? What is it what's this dream that you may have? Are you, but the other part too is, are you willing to do the work? Sometimes we've got the big dream, and yes, your company might be at this, but are you willing to do the crazy work that nobody will realize that you're doing but you? That the praise and the glory that you may have had in another life, now you're doing the business and it might be at whatever level, but are you willing to do the work to get to the level of success? But not only that, the level where you can have create a legacy with it. Are you willing to do the work? I've always said that, being a business owner, being an entrepreneur is not for sissies or punks. It's just not. It is like you've got to put your big girl panties on or your little boy underoos on, and you just got to go and make this happen. And you've got to be willing to do the work. And then are you willing to sacrifice your time? Like sometimes on the weekend, I would love to go and do something else, but I've got to write. I've got to do a presentation. I've got to lead something that I'm doing in the community. Are you willing to postpone fun? You've got to get your rest, but are you willing to postpone fun and your personal desires? Like I cannot wait until I think December the 22nd is like the date that I have in my head when I'm like, okay, I can breathe fully and then have a little bit more fun, because there's so much stuff I want to get done and want to accomplish before the end of the year. But the thing about it, as a business owner, are you willing to sacrifice your time just so that you can succeed? And then these last two I highlighted is, how do you ensure that your business lasts? That is huge when it comes down to business planning. You've got to think about the end as you create the business in the beginning. Like, what's my end result going to look like? Do you know what you want your business to look like 10 years from now or 20 years from now? I think often about the Green Book. That was those businesses that back in the day that African Americans would stop to because they may not have been welcome in other stores. So I'm doing some research to figure out how many of those businesses still exist. How many of those businesses did legacy planning? How many of those business that when the owner died, the business died? And business planning says, I'm thinking big, I'm thinking ahead, I'm thinking so that I want to make sure that this business lasts. If it's just a lifestyle business that you're doing it just to make money for you and your family to exist, and then when you die, it ends. But with the amount of work that we do in business, we may want to say, let's create a legacy with this. How do we pass this on? If we want to sell it, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But how do you also position for succession planning? What's the next step for this? Like you're building this. Like, do I want to sell it? And we'll talk a little bit about that. But I want you to make sure that when it comes down to your vision, you have to ensure, put the strategies in place to ensure that your business lasts, and make sure you're positioned for succession planning as well. Here's one simple strategy that I do with my clients when I meet with them. It's called, it's a 1-page business plan, 12-pitch font, and then just write down for the year, what's the revenue goal you want to get to? What's your target market? What are your success objectives you're trying to get to? How do you define success? If you get to a target market, or if you get to X revenue goal, is that success to you? Are you trying to double what you did last year or triple what you did last year? And what's the time frame for meeting the goals? I mean, because if you don't have a time frame, it's like, I'll do that. If I didn't hit it this year, I'll do it next year. And some goal just keeps going forever and ever and ever. And I use this one in a jokingly manner. I'll meet with folks on a personal level, and they're like, well, I'm trying to get out of debt. And I'll say, okay, was that a goal last year? Yep. Yes, it was. Okay. Was it a goal the previous year? Yes, it was. Okay. And was it a goal the year before that? It was. Okay. So what is it that's stopping you from getting out of debt? What strategies are put in place, and how do we need to implement that so that every year is not, I'm still trying to get out of debt? Same thing for business owners. What revenue goal are you going after? And are you willing to put in place the strategies to get there? So that 1-page business plan is key. It makes you, it makes you kind of focus and drill down and look at, all right, here are the tactical action steps I need to do. If the revenue goal is 2 million, then here are the tactical action steps. What are the markets that I'm going to go in to get to that level? And so that 1-page business plan with 12 pitch, the font at 12, and then just put it in 1 page. Don't be trying to add too much stuff into it, because the more you have on there, the less you're going to do, because it becomes too convoluted. But the 1-page business plan is key. Then we want to address our weaknesses. Now let's talk about this when we're talking about business planning and business succession planning. What are your weaknesses? Let's talk about that for a minute, because it's the weaknesses that will derail a business owner from getting to the next level. Do you spend too much? Have you spent your marketing dollars? Did you spend your membership to a particular organization that you can't get in and get all of the things you need to? Do you hire well? Or do you hire family members, or you hire someone that's not gifted for that particular position? You've got to put, and I think it was in Good to Great, is that you've got to have the right people in the seat on the bus. Like, identify a lot of time is that you can find somebody who's really great, and then you create the position around that person. Sometimes we'll have the position and we try to stuff a person into it, and then you realize, this person is really great over here. So again, do you hire well? Because these are the things that will derail your business. Here's another one. Do you think too small? Do you think too small? Because that's a weakness. That really is a weakness. In order to be a business owner, to get to the place of planning, you've got to think bigger. Challenge yourself just a little bit. Yes, it might scare you. I get it. But raise your level of expectation, even if it's mental. And if it's mental, then, because the win starts on the inside first, and then it spreads on the outside. So if you're thinking too small, and let me tell you how you can know that you're thinking too small. Look at the outside world. Look at what you've created outside of your mental part. And if you see and you know something's bigger, you're thinking a little bit too small. Do you lack vision? Do you lack vision? Do you know that, okay, I want to build this widget, I want to build this particular thing, I want to do this, but then you don't know what to do with it after you've created it. So you need to find, like, you might be the one that could create it, but you may need to find someone else could help with the marketing and the branding and the pushing you forward. You also might need somebody to hold you accountable. If you say you're going to do X, then get it done. Have too much ego. How about that part? I've seen businesses fail quickly because the ego took over everything. Like, just because you have a ton of money here, let's give your money an assignment. I think every business owner needs to give all of their revenue and every bit of profit they have, give it an assignment. What do I want to do with that? Do I put it into the business? Do I save it for my retirement? Do I create a legacy with it? Do I build a little bit more? Do I expand my business with it? Or do I just have the ego and I just want to show what I've done? Again, manage that ego. What about not having a daily plan? Let me see if I get this quote right. Your success is determined by your daily agenda. John Maxwell says that your success is determined by your daily agenda. Every day I get up, I typically would do it the night before. What are the things I want to accomplish on tomorrow? Or if I'm doing it in the morning, what are the things I want to make sure I get done today? Here are the things I need to do. And then I also have what I call follow-up Friday. So if I didn't accomplish something during the week, I go back and look at it. Do you have a weakness of being too afraid? Are you afraid to go for it? I mean, really go for it. And then what about this whole bit? I was talking to a business owner recently, and she said that she's a little bit of everything in the business because she won't delegate. She doesn't know how to delegate. She's a business development person. You know, she's doing a little bit of everything. And it makes it, you know, that whole bit of doing everything and not able to delegate is totally out of whack when you're working from home as well. So, and then the other part too, do you have a weakness because you only are focusing on the now? Like, you can't just focus on now. You've got to look at what happens here, and you've got to go forth and do this, and you've got to think big picture. So you've really got to do that. Then here's another strategy. I want you to develop your exit strategy. When do you develop it? You develop it now. Even if you're just starting a business, you've got to know the end at the very beginning. Your decision-making process is totally different when you're building a business based on whether you're going to sell it or do whatever. And we're going to go through your three options there. Like, what's your exit strategy? Do you plan to pass it on to family? And by the way, does the family member know that you're planning to pass this business on to them? That's the other part. Is your exit strategy, I mean, what is that? Do you plan to never retire? And if you plan to never retire, are you going to be on the side as a consultant and then getting a stream of income from the business? Like, what's your exit strategy? So everyone has a plan, but most of the time the plans are in their head. And then since the rate of death is 100%, so many people die with the plan, and then nothing happens to the business. So you want to write it down. And here's the other part: the understanding can lead to misunderstanding. Like, you die prematurely, for instance, and you meant to leave the business to whoever, but you never told whoever, and then the family was selling it, and then, but you already promised maybe in your head that an employee would be best to do this because this has been your key employee for years. So everyone's got a plan, but you've got to put that plan on paper. You've got to, and that's where either the one-page business plan comes into place, your contingency planning comes into place, your buy-sell agreement comes into place, but make sure that you do the plan. And then here's this, like, what do you want to happen to your business in the event? Do you want, as part of your exit plan, do you want to liquidate it? Do you want to keep it? Do you want to sell it? Like, what is that plan? And again, this whole bit on business planning is backing up at the very early stages of your business and figuring out, what do you want? What do you want this end result to look like? Do I just want to sell it? Do I want to keep it and then I get some kind of income from it in the future? Do I want to liquidate it? What kind of business am I growing? And so what we want to do is, if it's liquidate, maybe you're like, I don't have anybody to leave the business to. Who will buy it? Because here's the thing: if you start the business and you look around and you say, what, my competitor would be a great buyer of my business in the event that I die prematurely. So again, it goes with partnership. So that maybe you and that particular business, you can have a buy-sell agreement with each other, that in the event that something happens to me, you can buy my business. Because I promise you, the minute that you decide that you're leaving the business, Sometimes the business just goes away. What price would you liquidate or sell the business for? How much value will be lost? And that brings up something else. What is the value of your business? You want to grow the business so that you can grow the value of it. And what happens to the family income if you decide to, like, I'm just going to sell everything and that's the end of everything. So what happens to the family income? How do you continue to keep income from that? And that means too, when it comes down to business planning, is you can't spend everything you get. You've got to save a little bit too. You've got to save as you plan. Then if you want to keep it in the family, do you have children in the business now? Do you have, parents, sisters, brother, can one or more of them run the business successfully? Successfully. That's a big word, successfully run the business, because here you are. And here's the other part too. You've got to make sure that people know what that vision is, where you want to go. Do you want to, give it as a gift? I sit on the board of trustee at Newberry College, and I can't begin to tell you the stuff that people gift to the school. I mean, the school has a huge endowment, and it's because people would leave stuff for them, or as part of their estate planning, they include that college in there. If you want to keep it, then what do you want to do with it? Do you want to give it to somebody? Do you want to gift it to a college or university? I know that the historically Black colleges and universities could definitely use a gifting. So if you want to do that, what would your children who are not in the business, how would they do? How do you balance that out? And you can do that a simple way, even with insurances. And then the other part, if you decide to keep it, how do you continue to pay for the estate taxes on it? Then if you want to sell the business, who are you going to sell it to? And I mentioned before, you can sell it to a competitor. Do you sell it to your employees? Do you sell it to your children where they have some skin in the game, or do you just give it to them? And at what price? Again, that's where the business valuation comes into place as well. So let's talk about your business threats and addressing your business threats. And I think this is one of the key parts of this whole business planning. And I'm just going to do 4 of these particular areas that will derail your business: the death of the owner, a sickness or an extended illness or disability, having too much debt, and then not able to deal with the disruptors like COVID. And so let's talk about the death of the owner. Like, what's your game plan if you die prematurely? Like, have you ever thought about that? Like, we work as if we're going to wake up tomorrow morning. We it's like we don't put a strategy in place for that. Like, who will operate the business if I get sick, that I'm not able to talk, that I can't convey my thoughts about where I want the business to go? Is there a business continuity plan in place? Is there a standard operating procedure in place for the business in the event that you die prematurely? Do you have a successor, and do you know who that successor is? And again, I reiterate, does the successor know that they're taking over your business because you passed away prematurely? And then, and when it comes down to this whole disability or sickness or extended illness, your health is your wealth. You've got to take care of yourself. Like, we work way too hard, and I'll be the first to raise my hand. Like, we really work hard, but you also have to take the time to rest and to take care of you. And what's your game plan in the event that you're too sick to run your business? What's your game plan? Like what if you get sick, you leave it in place for maybe one of your key employees, and then when you get back, you can't get your business back from your key employee because they have turned around and taken over your business. So you've got to put those plans in place. And what about the debt, the amount of debt that you have? You have too much debt, and for some people, not enough debt because they don't have enough credit in their name, or they don't have a relationship with the banks. But are you taking care of the essentials first before you go out and buy your Range Rover or your Mercedes or your Lexus or your whatever kind of car that, or the 15,000 square foot home, and I'm not against that. All I'm saying is that there's a time and a place for it too. You got to make sure we pay the IRS. You got to make sure you pay your bills. You got to make sure you pay your employees. You got to make sure you got money set aside for your retirement, because guess what? We're not going to be working forever. So we've got to manage the amount of debt that you have. And then the last one is what are the situations that can happen that can literally destroy your business? And for many business owners that didn't plan, most of us didn't plan for COVID. but you can still thrive if you look at the, again, it goes back to your clarity, your opportunities, your value system, your inner game, and your determination to win. But again, when those disruptors come, you've got to, put your stake in the ground and say, I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that I can deal with them. And so let me give you a couple of things in terms of just some simple strategies. You need key person insurance when it comes down to the death of the owner, and the key person insurance is just insurance on the owner of the business or the key employee, and it's an infusion of cash as a result of the life insurance on that particular person, that allows the business to either succeed and continue to grow and hire behind you, or have enough money in place that if you wanted to sell it. But it's an infusion of cash into the business. And then, of course, it's on the personal side to make sure your family is okay. The life insurance is key as well. On the sickness and extended illness, this became really prevalent in very important during COVID, is that people are getting sick and they didn't have a personal disability income insurance policy because they were laid off, but they didn't have a supplemental policy outside of work. BOE stands for business overhead expense, and that's for the business. If you have typically 10 to 12 employees or less, and you're just starting the business, or you've been in business for 5 years or so, and typically when it's beyond 12 employees, you don't need the business overhead expense. But BOE says, in the event that the business owner is disabled, it takes care of the expenses of the business, pays for the expenses of the business, the rental space, your employee's salary. It pays for everything in the business with the exception of your salary. That's where the personal disability has to come in place. And then it's also the long-term care planning as well. And then in terms of a solution for the debt, make sure you have sufficient savings in place, lines of credit, access to capital, building the relationship with bankers ahead of time, making sure you pay your taxes and your student loans. And I want to mention those two because in the Black community, those are two areas that derail us, the IRS and the student loans. So make sure that you deal with both, because student loans, you can't charge it off as bad debt. And nothing you can do with that but to pay it. And if even at your death, it's going to be a lien against your estate. And so you want to make sure that you address the debt. And then when it comes down to the disruptors in life, having your insurances in place, your health insurance, your life insurance, your key person insurance, business overhead expense, disability, making sure you have cash on hand, make sure your mindset is a growth mindset, and you look at the opportunities even in the midst of what might look like failure. But the other part too is build those relationships ahead of time. Really build the relationships ahead of time. And then this last one here is you got to do the work. Like, we can talk about all of this all we want, but if you're not willing to do the work, then nothing happens. And I want to pick out a couple of these on here. Is focus on your goals and your objectives. Where do you want to be even between now and the end of the year? Review your current situation and the plans that you do have in place. Review your plan annually. Look back at that one-page business plan and see what it is that I need to do, or want to do, or must do in order to get to the next level. And then the last part in terms of business planning, getting the legal documents in place, the legal instruments, your wills, your trusts, your buy-sell agreements, your disability buyout, putting all of those legal documents in place, making sure you have a contingency plan in place as well. And so that's the gist of the simple strategies: working on you, having a strategic plan in place, knowing the end from the beginning, having a good exit strategy. You're going to protect against the risk. You got to know, understand, and position you and your business so that when the threats come, especially death, disability, too much debt, even divorce, even disagreement between you and a business partner, make sure you have all of those risks that are protected. Then you want to make sure you do the work on you, the business of you. Everything rises and falls on you as a business owner. Whether it's successful or whether it looks like failure, it all depends on you. And then the last one I would say is work on you, address your weaknesses. If you know that you are not strong in a particular area, address the weak, hire against your weakness. Don't procrastinate, stop postponing, and stop playing small. And I think that's it. But the last thing I would say here, the biggest hurdle is complacency. What do you want to happen? What would happen if you are complacent, or what won't happen because you are complacent? And can you afford to stand still? So here's my contact information. I'd love to connect with anyone that might need my help. And I would love to address any questions that you may have.
Awesome presentation again, Mary, and I definitely appreciate all that you've shared with us. You've given us a lot of good key information. And a couple of questions did come through the Q&A,
Okay.
and I want to just tackle the first one, which is pretty much how do you calculate which insurance types and how much insurance is required when running a business?
So one of the first things that I would do, like there's certain insurances that you've got to have E&O or errors in emission or general liability. You have to have that. Um, the first thing you want to do is, and I kind of take all my clients through it, I go through and I say, what are the risks? What are the what ifs? And the insurances are really just a protection against the risk. It's a sort of a least expensive way. So then you want to look at the risk. Like if I die prematurely, how much, like what do I want to take care of? And so you've got to go through that whole process. If I become disabled, what's at risk? What won't get paid? What's the value of my business? If I die prematurely, what's the value of my business? What would I want my family? What would I want to have in place? And so, and then the other part too is when you're putting insurances in place, is the goal a short-term goal? And I'll use I'll use life insurance for instance. If you have young children at home, then maybe putting a short-term insurance policy like a term policy is sufficient. However, if you're building a business and you've got a will or a trust in place and you've got this big long-term strategy, then you want to put some permanent coverage in place. And the amount of coverage will depend on the value of your business, what you're trying to protect, the amount of revenue that you have for your business. So you've got to sit down and look at the risk that you're trying to protect to make sure you know how much insurance and how much is needed and how long you need to have that insurance in place. So that's different for every business owner.
No, and thank you so much for that. I think that that's a pretty clear response because we don't want to go out and buy an extreme amount of insurance, right?
Correct.
If our business is not generating a ton of money in the beginning, right? So
Absolutely.
you kind of want to make sure that you take an assessment of how much you're earning as well,
Absolutely.
and then also measure that against the risk.
The
Another
other
question that I have.
let
Oh, I'm
me throw
sorry. Go
some
ahead, Mary.
let me throw something else in that too. So that when you work that I try to do with clients is, all right, even let's start off in the beginning. Let's start off with whatever the small risk that might be. Then we put the insurances in place. Then when we do the annual review, we look at again, we go back through and say, what if? Has the business grown? Okay, is the risk a little bit bigger? Then we buy insurances again, buy a little bit more. Like typically in the life of a business owner, a life of an individual, they typically will buy insurances about 7 times, maybe much less for us as African Americans, because we don't always understand the whole bit on insurance, and because we didn't have the conversation sitting around the kitchen table. And so you start off small. Don't buy an exorbitant amount if you don't need it. You start off with small and then you go back, but just make sure you keep that health in place because a lot of the insurances that you get is going to be determined based on the health.
Thank you so much. And another question that I have, it's sort of a follow-up question to this. We mentioned in the beginning about defining your vision if you want to start a business or if you want to expand into another sector of business. And one of the questions that come about is, well, I don't have all of these things covered, or I don't have the insurance to go in this area, or another thing is I have too much debt, or I have too much in student loans, or I owe too much in taxes. Should that stop you from expanding or starting that business? I mean, I think that there are some folks out there that are, they stop because they see, the different obstacles or the challenges. Should that stop them from starting that business or expanding that business?
Absolutely not. Because guess what? The world needs your gifts. They need your expertise. And so that should be those obstacles should be, because it is just an obstacle. It's a temporary obstacle. It just means that you've got to develop discipline to move those things out of the place, out of the way. So if you've got student loan debt, you've got IRS debt, you've got credit card debt. One of the things that you could do is I just say plan your escape from debt. Like literally write down, who do I owe? What debts do I owe and how does it block me? And then develop a strategy on how to get out of debt. Now, still keep working on your business. You still keep working on your business. You still keep doing all the things you need to do. Now, here's the other thing. It's going to take a heck of a lot of discipline because you're in debt because you lack the discipline. You're in debt because you didn't pay something. And it's okay. It's okay. Your credit is wrecked because that was then. But going forward, you can make a totally different decision. If you got in debt, you can get out of debt. And it just takes a whole lot of discipline. So the thing that you have to be careful with is when you do get money, make sure that you allocate them to the debts that you have in place. Other than that, they're going to show up a little bit later and block something else that you may want to do financially. So no, I think you should. I mean, the world needs what you have, your area of expertise that maybe it's that thing that you can't, that you could do, then go for it. But also work on your financial peace of mind.
Perfect.
You don't want to get that business to grow and then have the IRS come and put a lien against it. Right. And you can read in the newspaper all the time with you don't want that to happen. So make sure that you address the debt, but definitely don't let it stop you from living out the great, powerful person, business owner that you are.
Perfect. And then the last question, Mary, you talked a lot about the business plan, and you mentioned having a one-page plan. Now, I hear folks talk about their business plans. They're 17, 18, 40 pages long. Mm-hmm. Why do you recommend keeping it at one page? Tell us a little bit more about that.
I would go back to the 17, 20-page business plan that you did this brain dump, but you can't implement all of that in a year. So all you're going to do is you're going to pull out of that plan the things that you are going to be responsible for here. And that's why some business owners become overwhelmed and they never get to the next level, because they see the end result, but they can't go back. And again, they're the rainmaker. They got this, and nowadays banks don't want it. They're like, okay, give it to us. But imagine something so concise. This is what I plan to do, especially when you're going looking for money. You want something concise. Here's my target market. Here's what I plan to do. Here's the end result. So you can have that 20-page business plan, but why don't you pull out the essential things that you plan to do right now this year? So take that and break that 20-page, 17-page up in time frame, because you may not be able to do all of it right now. It might be, I need $100,000 and I need to do this. Well, the next phase of that might be this, and the next phase of that might be this. So pulling out a page at a time and putting those goals and objectives and revenue goals, all of those on one page, and working from that will drive you a little bit quicker and a little bit faster, and it gives you a whole lot more focus and discipline to make it happen. Because
I agree with that.
We like shiny objects as business owners. Oh, that's moving over there. Oh, let me go get this. Oh, this is no focus, discipline. That's what's going to drive your revenue.
Correct. I agree with that 100%, because now you have one page to track, monitor, and measure, as
Correct.
Opposed to 17, 40 pages that you may not even look at every day. And you mentioned making sure that you have daily actions towards your goal. And
tactical action steps.
Your tactical action steps. And if that consists of reviewing 40 pages a day, then chances are you're going to get stuck. But if
Correct.
you're looking at the one-page document on a daily basis, it sounds like it's going to be a lot easier to execute upon, a lot easier to take action on, to close gaps, and to move your business forward little by little until such time we can develop those larger business plans.
It also helps you to stop fixing to start. I'm fixing to do something. I'm fixing to do this. I'm fixing to do this. No, don't fixing to do that. I'm about to do this. No, to stop fixing to do stuff. Just go ahead and get it done. And a one-page business plan will help you get started. Just do the thing. Again, just do the thing. Other than that, you're reading 40 pages. And guess what? If it's online, you're tweaking it. You're editing it. Oh, this changed. No, do the one page. And again, like you said, it helps you to fill in the gap. It helps you to stay focused. It helps you to stay, keep that vision in front of you. But stop fixing to start, stop moving from that and just go ahead and do the thing.
Stop getting started and get it done.
Yes,
I like that.
just do the thing.
And then, Mary, we got to go into this last question before we end the webinar today. One of the questions that came in was, is this going to be recorded and will I get a copy of it? Yes, this will be recorded and it will be made available to you all who attended and to you all who chimed in but couldn't stay for the entire webinar. But there was something key that Mary said, that oftentimes we cannot measure this one thing that's unique about our community. And Mary mentioned that we come from the seeds of some great people that set the foundation of this great nation. And so, Mary, if you could just give us a little bit more about how special and unique our community is, and how oftentimes we can make, a way out of no way. And oftentimes, we can outperform many other businesses from other communities if we just get in the game. Talk to us a little bit more about that special uniqueness that we have in our community.
The thing I love, if people believe in a second life, I want to still come back as a Black woman. I really do. I love my people. I love us. I so love the fact that our ancestors went through so much just so that we can become business owners, just so that we can make our own choices. The thing that I also love about us as African American is that as Black folks, we don't just, when life gives us lemon, we don't make lemonade. We make lemon meringue pies. We just we go all out. We have grit. We have tenacity. We're living out the goals and the visions of the people who have gone before us, and we're built for greatness. We sometimes forget that when we're looking through a 17 or 20-page business plan. What we've got to do is we've got to focus on the bigger prize, focus on the gifting that we have, focus on this whole all these angels rooting for us, called Big Mama and Papa and all of that. We've got to go for life with gusto, because there's so much that's been spent and risked and given up just so that we can get to this place. Greatness reigns in us. Greatness resides in us. Greatness is what we come from. We stand on the shoulder of greatness. Why is it that we can't build that business and have a legacy for it and pass it on and keep passing it on? And not only that, but teach the next generation our history and the shoulders we stand on and the freedom that they fought just so we can be here. But know that we are destined for greatness, that we were created in greatness. And it's because of greatness that we will stand as a country, stand as a nation, and even as us as a community, as a Black community. But again, it's in us to win. So let's just show that we can win. And guess what? It doesn't even matter the money. Somehow we'll figure out a way to get around that. It doesn't matter the racial injustice. We're figuring a way out of that. We get less pay. We got wealth gap. We got all of that. And yet still we strive. And yet still we survive. And yet still we thrive in life. And all I'm saying is we're destined for this. Walk in it. Go do the thing. I've said it before. Just go do the thing. And again, we're standing on some powerful shoulders. Never forget that we are the seed of the slave that would not die.
Beautifully said, Mary. Beautifully said. And I think back to those stats that we talked about at the beginning of the presentation. And when I think about what you just said, there's nothing but opportunity in front of us to close the gaps, to change the numbers, to move the needle in our favor.
Absolutely.
With that said, on behalf of the United States Black Chambers of Commerce, our president, Ron Busby, our board, and our staff, I want to thank Mary Grate-Pyos and our valued partner, MassMutual, for presenting us with this very important webinar topic on today. And we look forward to a beautiful partnership with MassMutual in the future. And we look forward to having Mary Grate-Pyos back in 2022.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Phil.
Everyone have a great, great day. Thank you.